Hey, beautiful people, and welcome to Unbreakable Souls. I am Gene Williams, one of the co-hosts, and let's bring into the room my man, Big G, Coach G.
What's up,
What it
Coach
do?
G, my man? How you
What it
doing,
do?
bro?
What it do? Yeah, man,
I know we gotta go
it's
with the
been an
silly.
eventful week. Right, nerd.
Oh, we didn't go Australian today.
Not today, not today.
Not today, not today. Okay,
How you been, brother?
I'm good, man. It's funny. As we talked before, It's been good and bad week. I mean, we're talking about trauma, and
Right.
the month of March is 3 years ago the most devastating month of my life. So,
Oh, bro.
yeah, it's really hitting home with me as I do study on this, man. It's hitting home, bro.
Yeah, bro, I feel you. And it's crazy that the same month, 3 years ago, you were going through what you were going through, and I was going through something very similar.
Oh man,
So,
we got to catch up
wow.
on that. I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
And I was
yeah,
quiet about mine, you quiet about yours, but we need to share it because we need to pour that
yeah,
into the show. So
yeah, for sure, for sure. And then it's crazy how this subject is actually something that I discussed in depth with my girlfriend, and we just
okay,
kind of talked about like how childhood trauma shapes how you experience life after those things, especially if they go unchecked. So it's yeah, this is about to be a deep one right here. We're about to go in deep water, y'all. Y'all ready to swim?
let's go, man.
You
Let's
might want
go.
to plug your nose.
Right, this is Unbreakable Souls, episode 9,
Man,
and we're talking childhood trauma today. We kind of debated
so yeah,
because we missed the last couple weeks, so we're sorry about that. Just life happens for all of us, but
right,
we're back, ready to hit it strong. And was thinking through this, and I didn't want to combine two segments into one because this one is powerful.
oh
I know
yeah,
next week we're going to talk about relationship trauma, but man, how can we even talk about relationship trauma unless we have a full show on childhood trauma?
right,
So we're just going to hit you guys with three really big points today, um, and just really have some discussion, dialogue between Gene and I. And we
right,
hope that you guys are blessed on that. So, I mean, we're going to talk on the long term effects of childhood trauma and really have good discussion on that. Then we're going to talk about breaking the stigma of trauma, childhood trauma for men. And
right.
lastly, we're going to talk about healing and recovery. And I'm your stat guy, so I got next steps and how do we fix this. So we're going to talk about some approaches to fix that. We're not going to leave you broken today.
Right,
So
yeah. I was gonna say if we
yeah,
talk solutions, we got. I mean, if we talk problems, we got to talk solutions.
yeah, man, yeah.
Right,
So I appreciate your heart about that. That we are mirror images of each other with that. That you
yeah,
don't want to just leave people broken.
right. Yep. Got to give them the band aids after we address what happened. Got to give them the band aids. Give them the shoot. What do you call it? Peroxide. Give them the peroxide and alcohol and the swab. Go ahead, clean it off. Now you know about it. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
because we
clean it and
ripping
then bandage. There we
we
go.
ripping the band-aid off, man.
Right, rip it off and then clean it up.
No, no, that's actually a great analogy, man. That
Yeah.
today we are ripping the band-aid off because
Right.
we've walked, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years or more with a dirty
Right.
band-aid on, with it oozing
Right. Oh God.
out
Yes.
with infection and God knows what, germs and all kinds of stuff. And today, hopefully, we are going to do it because we on this show, Unbreakable Souls, we believe in leading by example. So today,
Right.
Gene and I are going to rip that band-aid off and expose some things.
Whew. Lord. Lord.
Lord.
Lord. Lord. Lord.
And when we say Lord this time, that's the LAWD.
There we go. All capital letters. Lord.
two,
Lord.
two exclamation points.
Right. Exactly. Got to emphasize how crucial this one was about to be. Lord.
Right.
Okay. Man.
Well, I don't know, man. You want to go first? I want to. I don't care. I got a story I want to tell, but
Yeah.
uh, me go
So
ahead
you
and
want me to
go.
go ahead? You want me to go ahead and
Whatever.
read the point, and you go ahead. You want me to read the point, and you go into your story.
Go ahead,
All
bro.
right. All right. Bet. All right, so number one, we are discussing the long term effects of childhood trauma. We're going to explore the lasting impact that childhood trauma can have on men's mental, emotional, and physical well-being. Early experiences of trauma can shape one's development, relationships, and overall quality of life. By highlighting the potential consequences of childhood trauma, this conversation can raise awareness and emphasize the importance of addressing and healing from those experiences. That's why we're
Mm,
here.
man, that's
So
so good. That's so good. And there's
let's
so
rip the
much meat in
band-aids off. You ready? On three. Three, two, one, go.
it.
Oh!
Boom.
Oh!
So I'm gonna just jump right in, bro. Um, because this one hits home because 2018, my world started to come unglued, and all my pre early childhood, early teenage, early 20 trauma that I had buried my entire life, even unknown trauma, started to
Right.
surface. And then my father passed away in 2019 suddenly. And this is a man I hated my entire life until the end of his life. And the Lord gave me 63 days with him on his back in Research Hospital here in Kansas City, Missouri. And the man
Yeah.
that broke me for 49 years rebuilt me in 63 days. So I
Wow.
speak that story on two different platforms, AYPN, Activate Your Power Now. Shout out to Izzy and
Yeah.
James.
Yeah.
And then
Mm-hmm.
BTBY, Becoming the Best You. And shout out to Brand on that. But yeah, I've
Oh,
shared
yeah.
that story on both of those platforms because in doing that, I shared the story of my father. But really, what I want to share on today is I never understood until I went to therapy why I truly am the way I am. And what I mean by that is why I'm so protective, why I'm such an ultra defender, guardian, so to speak, of people, even to the point where it puts me in bad situations. Like, for example, in my marriage, there's a couple of situations that I was guardian and protector of some of the players on my team, but those situations were toxic and hurt my marriage,
Yeah.
and for whatever reason, it was like I was on crack, man. I couldn't get away from it. I had to
Right.
defend and protect those particular youth, even at the detriment of my marriage. And obviously, today I regret that, but in that moment, I didn't understand why. I just had this sense. So this is the story I'm going to share today in therapy. And one of the things we're going to talk about later on is EMDR therapy. And EMDR therapy is like a movie. You see, you feel, you taste. Everything of that trauma, and they do it on purpose to unlock repressed memories in your mind, but it
Right.
flashes to you like a movie real time. So there's two experiences that happened, bam bam, like 10 seconds each, um, that had happened to me as a child, as a 10-year-old, that now I'm 50, 40 years ago I had no idea even happened to me.
Right.
But as traumatic as it was, and the experience was being molested as a 10-year-old twice in the same week. We would spend the summers every year. My parents grew up in a little small town called Sison, Missouri. And I would spend the summers there with 1 week with my dad's side, with my grandparents, Paul, who was like a father to me, and my big mama. And then the other week or 2 weeks, whatever, with my favorite cousin, Anthony, or AG, we called him, or Pumpkin at that time. My
Mhm.
mom's brother, my Uncle Charlie. So I'm I won't go into the depths of the story, but basically, the first week in one situation, molested by a cousin, I went in to defend and protect a younger, same age cousin who was being raped by this particular cousin, and was able to get her out and get her safe. But then that rape turned in on me, and he did it to me.
Wow.
Literally a week later, probably 4 or 5 days later, different situation, different setting. Um, Same situation happens now by an uncle. And I always
Yeah.
was uneasy or queasy around this particular uncle. Um, and now I understood why. And so
Mhm.
he did the same thing. And my body just shut that down, shut it down. I had no knowledge, recollection of it whatsoever until EMDR therapy 40 years later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man.
But as traumatic of an experience that was, obviously as a 10-year-old, even more so as a 50-year-old, learning that this had happened to me and that memory had been repressed, it gave me clarity. When I kind of came to my senses, which took 3, 4, 5 days, because I was suicidal and I was homicidal. My first thought was, where are these people? Because they're dying today.
Right.
The cousin that hurt me had already passed away, and the uncle that hurt me was locked up in prison. So I couldn't do
Mhm.
anything. Neither one. It's either locked up for life. So
Right.
I couldn't do anything. Um, but what it did was brought clarity to my life and why I was the way I was.
Right.
Obviously, none of that saved the carnage that was left behind me, like my marriage, because I lost my marriage. But it brought clarity to me. It allowed me to regain strength and power in knowing who I was. I had
Right.
lost pieces of me all throughout that time of life, 40 years. And learning that experience, it gave me all that power back in an instant.
Right.
So, man, we're talking about the effects of childhood trauma that happened
Right.
to a 10-year-old that literally affected everything I said and did and thought and acted on for the next 40 years. And I didn't even know it.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, first, I'm sorry you experienced that
Thank
for
you.
sure.
Thank you.
Um, and yeah, it definitely forms you in so many ways, and it's a good thing that you uh, went and got EMDR. There's something like I say I never knew about it until my girlfriend introduced it to me, maybe 2 years ago or so. But
Right.
definitely a treatment I'm looking into. Um,
I'll talk
but
more into that here in a little bit, but once we get to that, but keep
yeah,
going.
yeah. So definitely, and again, I'm repeating myself. You know, the things that transpire when you are young, it shapes who you are, especially if you don't have the ability to uh, to unpack it, you know, in a safe space. Um, so I told you earlier in the what is it, background or whatever, you know, before we come on the show.
Right, right. The green room.
Um, right, thank you. So you know, I was talking to my girlfriend earlier this week, and it's like it just came to me like a flash of. And I mean, I've said this before, but you know, I experienced a lot of physical and verbal abuse in a relationship that I had, past relationship. Um, and I always wondered, like now looking back in hindsight, you know, I was like, why did I allow myself to go through that? Because even my two therapists, I had two female therapists who I talked to about those situations, and they were
Wow.
like, Gina, are you a glutton for punishment? I was like, what?
Yeah. I remember you
Nah.
saying that.
And they're
Yeah.
like, really? And I had to sit back and really think, like, maybe I am. But
Yeah.
that was modeled for me early on. You know, I experienced a lot of abuse of several kinds um, as a child, teenager, young adult, and then getting into that marriage. It was just like a continuation of those things, the things that she um, would do to me. You know, abuse wise. You know, it was mirrored. It was mirrored for me earlier. So it's like didn't realize how easy it was for me to just because I was used to that chaos to go back into, you know, a situation like that and be in that relationship for most of my life. Most of
Wow.
my life dealing with that. And I realized in the midst of the relationship. And that's why I had to set firm boundaries. Um, but it's like towards the end of that relationship, it was cycling back around like it was about to go back to that, right? And it's like, nah, I can't do this in front of our kids.
Right.
Um, I I just I can't allow my kids to think that this is okay from either side. You know, I made a lot of mistakes, and a lot of things were enacted upon me that were, you know, that were quite abusive. So you know, I don't want my kids to grow up seeing that and then thinking that that's the norm, because
Right.
the norm is mirrored by what transpires when you're young. You know.
Woo. That's a point there, brother. Man, that's
Yeah.
good. Keep going. That's good.
Hey, just really quickly, brothers and everything. I was just curious because sometimes even things that might seem to be innocent can impact us as well. Because as y'all were talking, I was going like I had never went into those hardships that y'all went through or those relationship kind of things. But I do remember that when I was young, once it was when I was in my college years, my folks got divorced. So I was actually in college when that happened. But I sometimes wondered what the impact was on my younger brother because he would have been a kid going through that divorce and seeing those parents divorcing and everything. Of course, you always wish and dream that your folks get back together, even as a young man in the 20s. I was hoping that, even though dad has been with his latest love longer than he was with my mom and everything. But I do know that sometimes those things that can seem to be not as much of an impact as abuse and things can still impact us and all along those lines. And I was even thinking, because I think I mentioned to both of you that my parents had a radio station when I was a youngster and everything. So in my mind, that was almost like the third kid and everything, because a lot of times they were dedicating themselves to that. And sometimes I'm going like, hey, wait a minute, me and Malik are here too. So sometimes, I mean, we got involved in the station and we're glad to get involved in the station. But I just wanted your take on that.
Well, I know I'm in
Yeah,
agreement. Yeah, I'm in agreement with that because what we're talking about is trauma, childhood trauma,
right,
not just necessarily physical
right,
abuse. That's a divorce is trauma to
right,
not only the mom and the dad, but any children that are involved in that relationship.
right.
So
Or
Yeah,
even the divorce of a business as well, because like I said, they had that business, so the
yeah,
creation of the business created almost a third child because they had to dedicate, and I understand that because I'm an entrepreneur myself, that they had to dedicate their uh, resources to
right,
that creation of that business. But at the same
mhm,
time, you sometimes want them to go out and be involved with you, and because that isn't always,
right,
they don't always have the time to do that as much as you would like them to do, and everything. So that can be added to the conversation as well. So it's that balancing act that folks have to do.
right.
right. Yeah, and it's hard, and like you said, it is traumatic when you first the divorce aspect. I know about it all too well, and then you know, 3 years ago, got divorced or in the
No,
process.
3 years for
Long
me.
story there. Yeah, but yeah, it's traumatic for all parties involved. Um, and it alters the way that you see relationships, and also same for the kids. Um, the trauma that comes with it is just the divorce alone. And if the parents aren't getting along post separation or divorce, that makes it even worse. And
Yeah.
then if you have a person who's trying to sway people one way or another, then that adds another layer of trauma that you have to work through. And it's just like you
But,
create
but Gene and
a
Coach, and I'm gonna let
mountain.
y'all go back to y'all's regularly scheduled show and everything. But I was wondering, doesn't it also play a part in the trauma in the creation of relationships? Because, like I said, I'm 60 something and about to, and still in that single space. But I know that sometimes the reason of not being in relationships is because sometimes you are afraid of how the relationship might go and all of that. There is that kind of like commitment phobia. I know that I've been accused
Yeah,
of that and all along those lines and everything. So I was just wondering if sometimes that might be based on what you've been through and seen in relationships, that it might even get you to steer away from what could be healthy relationships because you're afraid of what could happen and the relationship, and you're kind of projecting the what could
right.
happen. So that can be a form of trauma induced
Trauma.
situation
Yeah.
as well.
Right,
So I don't
right.
know if y'all agree with me, but I know that there have probably been missed opportunities that I've had that I was not dealing with the past enough to actually get to the present.
Well, some of those
Yeah.
missed opportunities, though, Mark, might have been traumatic
A blessing. Yeah.
situations.
Right.
You're actually
Those,
saved from.
You
well,
saved yourself, brother.
I will be very honest. There were some of those situations that I let myself get into that were traumatic, because I definitely have been in some traumatic relationships, including some that I was sitting there going like, because some the things that I hated, and I know we're gonna get to this in a later show, is when your friends tell you that they knew that that wasn't the one for you, and they saw the warning signs, and then after the fact they tell
Mhm.
you, and you're sitting there going like, well, I wish you had told me before the fact, so I didn't
Right.
get into that whole nightmare. Because I have been, I'm not gonna lie, I've been in a couple of relationships that were authentic nightmares and everything. And even though my parents have asked me about them, ironically, there were some kids involved, not any of my kids because I don't have any kids, but there were kids, because that can also be a trauma, is when you learn and become involved with kids and then you're not connected with them after the
Mhm.
relationship ends. Because I know that
Yeah.
even my own parents have asked me about some lady friends that I've had kids because they became attached to those kids. So that's another trauma that can happen as well, because you can get attached to those kids. Your family can get attached to those kids. And then they've even asked me about some of those kids that are now in their adult years, asking me, how is this one doing or how is that one doing? And in a lot of cases, I haven't kept track of them, but in some cases, I've heard on social media or we run in similar circles where they are and everything. But that can be another trauma that can happen as well.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Good point.
Absolutely.
Gene, I think that
I'm
feeds
with-
into what you were talking about, the norm, that,
Yeah.
it becomes a norm um, in our hearts and our minds and our thoughts. And even though we know we're entering a toxic situation, we do it anyway because, that's familiar territory. I mean,
Right.
I can relate to that. I'm going to save that story for next week when we talk about relationships. But
Yeah. 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 Ooh, Lord. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely, man. Yep.
but pick up
Really
where
more.
you left off, or you want to move. And I want to make sure we
Yeah.
covered everything that we talked about, on early
Yeah.
experiences and how they can, shape one's development, their relationships. We talked about obviously relationships, but really your overall quality of life. I mean, I became
Right.
a completely different person unknowingly because I
Yeah.
was fueled by this traumatic experience that happened to me as a 10-year-old.
Right.
So unless it's known and dealt with, then it just continues. And I think there's so
Right.
many seeds of trauma in men today, and not to even mention post-traumatic slave syndrome,
Right.
the seeds of slavery that are innate in our DNA that pop up randomly, and we
Right.
have no idea. But if these things aren't dealt with on a professional level,
Hmm.
then they grow roots and they just become a bigger nuisance in our life over time, and to the point where
Right.
we just explode. So,
Yeah. And I did want to say, I know that I'm a, I've been known to be very rebellious. I'm still quite
I'm
a rebel.
gonna have
And
to ask
it's
Mama
still,
about that.
yeah, well, yeah, she'll tell you. To this day, like Deontay Wilder would say, to this day, I'm quite rebellious. And it just stems from not feeling heard,
Hmm.
growing up, not being able to speak my truth. At the, you know, at the time that we were growing up, well, that I was growing up, you was about 8 years older than me, 7, something like that.
Yeah, I'm 53.
Oh, 10. Okay, I thought you were just 50, bro. Listen, black don't crack, man. Give it
Black
up for
don't
the black
crack, man.
don't crack. But so and so I know you experienced it even more than I did, most likely. Especially you grew up in Kansas City or in the South.
Kansas City, St. Louis, and
Kansas
Kansas
City.
City.
Gotcha. So, well, I mean, yeah, that was Midwest. So anyway, at the time you if you were to speak your truth, the way the kids get to speak it today, and I mean, they go to the extremes nowadays. But even if you try to voice a disagreement about maybe how a person was approaching something or looked or whatever, it was deemed as disrespect.
Hmm.
And so it's like you kind of feel after a while like you're shut down and you can't really voice your opinion and your feelings and things like that. And it sets you up to be a person who has issues speaking up for themselves because they couldn't do it. And now you're
Right.
in an adult age where, no one can whoop your butt or ground you. Now I'm grown. But when it's time to speak up for yourself, you have that. I want to speak up, but I don't know how to. You know what I mean? So
That's
that was
powerful.
and that's a lot of the reason why I'm very rebellious. Like
No, I feel that,
I have to
man.
catch myself. I have to catch myself sometimes. I go overboard with the rebellion and be like, okay, Gene, there was a balance somewhere in there that you could have
Right.
found.
No, I took a training course. One of my good friends, one of my sisters, she, out of love, in the midst of my trauma, had me take this class called Landmark, and it's called the Forum. And they basically call that an act. And
Mhm.
all of us have several acts, but we have, maybe, 3, 4 primary acts. And I learned in that experience that when one of my, or actually I'd say the primary act for me, because an act is what we do to protect ourselves. Trauma happens, and this is how we protect and defend ourselves to make sure it's our defense mechanism to make sure it doesn't happen again. So my primary was need to prove. So I'm listening to what you were saying, and because I was always cut down, then I always had this need to prove. I'm a good man. I'm honest. I'm trustworthy. I'm loyal. I'm dependable. I'm a good father. I'm a good husband. I'm a good businessman. I'm a good basketball player. You know, all these things. But now when I look back at all the carnage left behind me because of that thought process, and now to know the root cause of that thought process was what happened to me as a 10-year-old. Now, when you break that foundation of lies and trauma, the freedom that now comes with that, man, is exhilarating. It's powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and part of the reason why, and I'm conscious of this, I'm cognizant of this, that the rebellion comes from me having trust issues with people. Because I've had situations where I trust people and they use and manipulate me. You know, and you figure it out in hindsight, but it's like, okay, so no, I'm not moving. You know, because now I don't trust you. You know, my spidey senses are tingling, and I'm just like, no, I'm not moving. And you know, so I do realize that, and that's definitely, like you said, it's an act. It's a self defense mechanism. You know.
Right. Well, and even speaking into what you just said, the spidey senses, which are innate in us by the hands of God, I believe seeds of defense that God puts in us to sense danger or lies or, you know, things that are coming against us. But now when you view life from a dirty lens because of your trauma, because you came into this world clean and now trauma has happened to you. So now your experiences, you view through dirty glasses.
Right.
So it doesn't look the same. Yeah. So what happened to me in my situation, basically, as a 50-year-old, I got a new pair of glasses.
Right.
I got a brand new, fresh pair of glasses that allowed me to see the world again in the way that, you know, the Lord wanted me to see them. So I could just now put on my glasses and
there we go.
Oh my, whole new vision. Now you're talking about Spidey vision.
Right. From a true and purified sense.
Yeah. So good talk, man. I appreciate that. Appreciate you sharing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. You know, and then we want to swing to breaking the stigma would be point number 2. Really got to put a focus on challenging societal stigma surrounding men and their experiences of childhood trauma. Nobody ever wants to talk about that.
Right.
I think by discussing the harmful stereotypes and expectations that often discourage men from seeking help or expressing their emotions, by promoting open and non-judgmental conversations like we're having today. I mean, that's what this podcast is about. Unbreakable Souls is about exposing those untruths and allowing people a safe space that's non-judgmental to have conversations. But we've learned that by doing that, it encourages men to share their stories, to seek support, and to break free, as I talked about a few minutes ago, from the notion that vulnerability is a sign of weakness. That's not weakness. That's strength.
Right. Exactly.
I was the warrior my whole life and buried 50 years of trauma. And then when it came out, I lost my mind.
Right.
So that wasn't strong. That didn't take strength to bury.
Right.
It took strength to expose it.
Right. Yep. Yeah, it's easy to put up the mask, you know, and like you said, channel your energy and expression through a falsehood, you know, just to protect yourself, protect the ego, because that's what it is. The ego is fragile. So the soul is powerful and unstoppable, but the ego is the one that needs the structure around it to keep, you know, I'm gonna be hard because this makes me feel strong, even though I feel broken on the inside. You just be the broken self. Have that there because I mean it's needed. You got to have the you know sometimes, like I said before, we go to extremes. Um, we either go full on turtle shell with spikes, or we go full on gusher. How about we find that middle ground
Right, the
and
happy
be able
medium.
to express? Right, exactly. Find that middle ground, be able to express yourself, also be able to protect yourself, but without going overboard with either way. We got to find that middle ground.
Right,
Hey, just
right.
really quickly in that space and everything, I was wondering because I was actually having a deep conversation with a friend of mine. I know we've been on the health journey lately because he just recently was diagnosed with cancer and everything. But isn't part of the
Sorry to hear
trauma
that.
also the fact that we don't like to talk about how difficult it is? Because he really had a moment. Some people would say a moment of weakness. I actually took it as a moment of strength where he was telling me how difficult it was, the pain that he was going through and what he was going through, and how he was having a hard time with that. But some people be like, that's being weak to have that moment of vulnerability. But I think you've got to have those moments of vulnerability when you are going through difficult times, whether that's relationship troubles or life traumas or a number of other traumas. So I actually took it as courage that he did that.
Well,
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
just go ahead, Gene.
Well, I was going to just say that actually kind of reminds me of a uh, I don't want to call it a line, but it's one of the sutras of the Tao Te Ching. It talks about how a tree that is um, like an oak tree, that's firm and it stands strong. When the wind blows it, it doesn't move, and when it gets too much stress, it breaks. But
Mm,
bamboo bends in the wind, and then when the wind stops, it's still there. So we have to have that balance of strength and that balance of vulnerability, to make yourself a whole true being. Anything
mm,
that's externally strong and stalwart and does not move breaks when life comes at it and blows it down. But anything that is flexible and yet strong in that flexibility, that vulnerability, is more powerful. The winds of life come in and blow it, and as soon as it stops, boom, I'm back. What's up?
wow.
That's one of my favorite scripts. No, it's not a scripture; it's a sutra, but it's virtually the same thing.
That's so rich, man. The power and the flexibility. Wow.
Right.
Flexibility of vulnerability.
Yep.
Wow. I never heard that before.
Oh yeah. Lao Tzu, I love him.
Who was that again?
Lao Tzu, the Tao Te Ching.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty dope, man.
Yeah.
I never heard anything like that before, but that makes sense. Makes sense because we're taught in society, especially black men, we're taught to be
Mhm.
the oak tree
Right.
that you can't bend,
Right.
that you
Right.
just fortify yourself even more when trauma happens,
Right.
fortify yourself even more, which makes you even more rigid and
Right.
inflexible. Man, dude, you just
Exactly.
hit on what an analogy. That has hit me
Yeah.
again. That's so good, brother. Wow.
Awesome. I appreciate
I
it.
gotta talk into that one more often, man. That was really good.
Yeah.
Just powerful.
Uh,
Just powerful.
yeah. Yeah. Like you said before, the strength is not in being hard, and when you fortify yourself more, again, you're not taking care of the inside. The inside is still soft, just like a crab. We have a hard shell, but the insides are soft. That's
Soft, right?
vulnerability. That's the
Turtle. Yep.
balance.
Yep.
Exactly. Same. Exactly. A hard shell on the outside, but inside you're soft and malleable. Those are the things that live the longest. And you got to think about this is what I was going to say. When you fortify yourself, think about the fact that as men and black men specifically, we're taught to fortify yourselves more, and that's why we die earlier.
Right.
We're
Right.
passing in
Internal
your age.
stressors.
And
Right.
right, exactly. Heart attack, high blood pressure, stroke. I mean, cancer. It goes on and on and on. Those external um, farming agents. I can't even think of the word we used before, but farming agents. They're only external, but the inside is being having havoc wreaked upon it. So you have to, be both strong and flexible or vulnerable
At the
in
same
order to
time.
truly, yeah, to grow.
Man, I appreciate that because that's deep, that's rich. and really speaks into breaking the stigma
Yeah.
that we've got it backwards, that we've got to learn to become flexible / vulnerable.
Right.
And at the end of the day, that is what equates strength.
Right.
That's powerful. A child that doesn't know anything can push down things. It doesn't take
Right.
strength to do that. It takes strength to stand in the
Right.
midst of adversity and move forward. So losing
Right.
my thought there.
No, no, you're good. I was gonna say it's funny that we're talking about this because there's an equation. I don't know exactly how it goes, but it's in health science where you discuss the the overall power of the body is determined by strength of the muscle and then the flexibility of a muscle. If a
Right.
muscle is stiff, it breaks, it tears. But a muscle is if a muscle is flexible and has more range of
Pliable.
motion, it's pliable and it's actually stronger.
Hmm.
So,
Well, and then I even throw that, being a sports guy, we both are sports guys. We know most men are sports guys. You hear that in football, a defense that
mhm,
bends but doesn't break. And
right,
usually the highest ranked defenses are those teams that bend and don't break. They give up a
right,
yard or two here and there, or maybe a chunk in one possession. But
right,
ultimately, when they need to make a stand, they make a stand and they don't break. So,
right.
man, that's good.
Yeah.
I appreciate you bringing that into our conversation, brother.
Oh yeah.
That was deep. You got to teach me some of that stuff. Should I be
Howdy,
saying?
King.
Should be saying, Sensei? Sensei, can you give me the lesson?
Yes, I teach you the kung fu. Oh man.
Well, I wanted to
All
move
right.
into this other one because this one, and then our last, our next steps is really, really important because we don't want to leave men broken.
Right.
Healing and recovery. Healing and
Yes.
recovery is so important. So, I mean, this part we really want to dive into, explore the various paths to healing and recovery from childhood trauma. I mean, I really want us to discuss therapeutic approaches, support networks, self care practices that can help men navigate their trauma and regain a sense of well being. Like, the trauma that I talked about that I shared tonight. Um, but by putting in therapeutic approaches, gaining support networks around me, being taught self care practices, it helped me to
Yeah.
regain a fuller well being of myself. So, I mean, our conversation today will hopefully highlight and inspire other men to tell their stories and their individual situations and how they have successfully overcome childhood trauma. And, hopefully we can provide resources for our listeners who may be seeking help or guidance. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Here. I mean, we're also. So I say this all the time to my clients. Stress. Certain amounts of stress is natural in life.
Right.
That's how life is. Is you're building your body through exercise. That's intentional stress on the body. Um, but it takes time for your body to recover after you've done that intentional thing to break the muscle down to rebuild them.
Hmm.
And it's the same thing as it pertains to the trauma that we've dealt with. We have to be cognizant. We have to be conscious of, okay, I've experienced this. This is affecting me a certain way. So it's life or death. I mean, if we're honest, life or death. Take healing yourself and recovering from the trauma and the pain, as opposed to stuffing it down and then you're just creating a swamp, a swamp, like inner swamp, where no water is being let out and clean water coming in. It just sits there. It's a cesspool of you
Cesspool,
know
right?
yeah, it's a cesspool of piranha and alligators and
Uh,
water moccasins, and the water stinks and it's green, and it's just putrid, and that's how a lot of us exist. We
yes.
exist with that type of environment within us because we're not processing, we're not healing, we're not we're allowing ourselves to be caught up in the narrative that in order to be a strong man, you have to push these things down, as opposed to, hey, I feel this way. Let this water go out. Process this, and then
Right.
clean water comes in to
Right.
create a healthy environment within. And we have to be like a river or an ocean. You know, you have that, it feeds into another. Everything is cyclical. So everything moves in a circle. If you allow those spaces to be open and be honest about who we are, we create that filtration system within.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. Staying fresh. I think there
Yeah.
has to be a greater focus with men, especially men that have had trauma, in is staying fresh. Um, stay cutting edge, stay sharp on your skills, stay sharp on your emotions. I think Stephen Covey called that sharpening the saw. Always
Right.
looking at yourself, looking in the mirror and saying, what areas
I
in
need
my
to
life
work
do
on.
I need to work on? Where do I need to heal?
Right.
Taking the blame game away sometimes. I've been
Mhm.
listening to this podcast about that we give power to what we blame. So yes,
Uh-huh.
I've gone through trauma and had all these bad experiences, but I give power to that trauma as I keep blaming it over the course of my life. At some
Mhm.
point, man, we got to stop being victims and
Right.
be the victor, because as you keep complaining about that situation, you give power to it and it leaves you powerless as a victim. But the moment
Right.
that you take control of that and take ownership of it back and point it back on yourself, yes, maybe the trauma didn't
Exactly.
happen because of you. Maybe you didn't do something. And like me, was molested. I didn't ask for that. But
Right.
simply because I've now taken ownership of that, now it doesn't reign supreme over me anymore. It's
Right. There you go.
powerless. It's powerless.
Right.
I've taken
Right.
control over that. And I
Right.
think if we get in a mindset of that, that's what I mean by fresh is, just staying cutting edge with ourselves every day, staying fresh with
Right.
ourselves every day, and taking that self evaluation and doing self reflection and just, what area. I know you
Right.
yoga guys, you guys teach, I'll say this and you can probably finish it, where you highlight, okay, you feel your head now, you feel your arms now, you feel your
Right.
legs now. What's that called? Where you
Uh,
cleanse from your head to toe?
well, so first, that's it's called body awareness.
Yes.
Um, yeah.
Speak into that.
Yeah. So I mean, and also trauma plays into that. And we discuss how in yoga, when you do the body scan, from the top of your
Yes.
head, realizing that you have tension. So you
Hmm.
begin to relax. So, we'll say specifically, relax the space between your eyebrows, relax your cheeks, allow your tongue to relax into the bottom of your mouth, release your jawbone. You're realizing through body scanning, through self awareness, that, oh, I have tension here. And then you bring a light to that. What is that about? And then you release it, and then you go down and down all the way to the bottom of your feet.
I was going to do it right now. He was like, where did Coach G go? I'm right here.
Right, I'm like,
I'm doing my
you about
body
to
scan.
meditate on us, huh? But especially in times of trauma, like having that body awareness and that self awareness, we all hold stress in certain areas. For me, it's my shoulders and my lower back. When I'm in
Mm,
a stressed out situation, my shoulders are way up here, and my back and my hips, and the back is your backbone. How you see yourself. If you're feeling strong, then you stand erect. But if you're feeling weak, then you slump over with the weight of whatever situation on your shoulders.
like you have
So
a
we have to be
backpack of
mindful.
rocks. Right.
Exactly, exactly. Um, and through breathing and allowing yourself to tune into yourself through body scanning and just regular self awareness, you begin to say, okay, all right. And that's also, so I say the hips because that's where we create life from,
Right.
you know? So when you hold tension in your hips, it means you're cutting off that, or you're either miscreating your reality in a way that you don't want it to be done, or you're clamping off your ability to create things the way that you desire them.
That's good, man. You see Mama's comment?
I didn't, I didn't see it. What's she saying over there?
She said you can't sleep and do the show.
Not right. Yeah, you got to meditate in your own time, brother. Now, right?
Mama was just an illustration. It was just an illustration. So, but we're happy you're watching.
Oh yeah, definitely. All right, let's get into these therapeutic focused trauma. I'm sorry, trauma focused therapy. This so actually, if you could you talk about the first one because I don't know much about EMDR other
Oh yeah,
than just
yeah, yeah. So as we talked about, you guys, we didn't want to leave you guys with just talking about trauma. Even just the discussion of trauma can bring on secondary trauma.
right,
So I know some of you that are listening to this today are probably going back to your personal experience and possibly even having secondary and third level, fourth level trauma. So we
right,
don't want to leave you broken in a bad state. So we put together a group of things that we believe will help you overcome some of that. And the first one is therapeutic approaches. So trauma focused therapy. So I'm trying to think of how to say this because I don't want to offend therapists, but it's personalized. Don't just call a place and go do a therapy. And that might be the way you have to start to find the right therapist, but you'll know within the first visit if that person's right with you, if you connect with them. This is
right,
one of those things that you have to connect with that person. If they
right,
don't see you, hear you, get you, understand your experience, then you need to let go and move on to the next person.
right,
And if they're worth their salt, they'll understand that because they want you to get the best treatment. But so you need a really good trauma focused therapist. So this type of therapy focuses specifically on addressing and processing, so both addressing and processing
yep,
all of your traumatic experiences, and in most cases one at a time.
right,
One at a time. That's dangerous to throw all of them all there out at the same
yes,
time because that's actually what my experience was. That's why I'm saying pick the right therapist. I was going through a therapist about relationships with my marriage because we were close to getting divorced. I was going through the loss of business, the loss of parent, different relationships. And then she's like, "Oh yeah, let's try EMDR therapy." I hadn't dealt with all of that trauma yet.
hmm,
And then in the midst of EMDR therapy, I realized, oh, I was molested as a 10-year-old.
right,
So that sent me over the edge and I became suicidal, homicidal. So get a therapist that will stage you in steps, that
right,
will teach you techniques such as cognitive behavior therapy or CBT. The other therapy that I talked about, eye movement, desensitization and reprocessing, is EMDR. EMDR is like watching a movie from your head. It opens both hemispheres, not atmospheres, both
right.
both
I know what
hemispheres of
you
your brain. I know at the
mean.
same time. So you have these memories that have been locked up in a box in your mind, repressed. But when you do EMDR therapy, it pops. They just pop like a movie.
Right,
But it's not just a movie. You see it right in front of you and you feel it, you smell it, you taste it, you experience that. And they keep you only in it for 10, 15 seconds. It feels much longer than that, but it's
right,
it's a very, very minor time. And then help you process and then repackage it and lock it up in a better way where it's not harmful
right,
to you. Um, there's another one, dialectical behavior therapy, that helps individuals process and heal from their childhood traumas as well. I don't know as much about that one. I definitely know about CBT and EMDR. I never did jump into the DBT,
yeah,
but I'm open to it. I'm open to it.
yeah. I've never experienced either any of these, but I've actually, well, my girlfriend has researched it, and she's actually experienced it a few times, which helped her process a lot of her trauma.
Okay.
And now I know that one of them uh, has something to do with electrical currents and things like that. And
That's
because I had an EMD, okay, yeah, yeah.
EMDR. There's a
So,
probe that's going in front of you. So it's similar
mm,
to hypnosis.
gotcha.
Your eyes are going back and forth watching this probe while you have electrodes in your hands that are on different frequencies.
Mm,
So you've got all this stimulation going on, and it hones in your senses
right,
to repress memories. Like I said, it unlocks both hemispheres of your brain and these memories that have just been stored just randomly.
right,
So that's the hard part. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to
right,
pop. So they just randomly pop in your mind. And I'm sure therapists can go in that deeper, but maybe when we do our roundtable, we bring Evie back on because she knows all about this.
Yeah.
She could tell you a lot about that. So CBT out of the ones that I talked about was definitely very helpful. I use CBT every day.
Yeah.
But group therapy is what really turned the corner for me. And group therapy is participating in a group session. Um, it helps to bring a sense of community and support. So men can connect with others who have experienced similar situations or traumas, share their story, hear someone else's story, and learn coping strategies, which is CBT, from one another. You know, I can share how I've coped, and you share how you coped, and this person and that person,
Right.
and we just take pieces, bits and pieces of everybody's
Right.
story to help our own situation.
Right.
Group therapy offers a safe space for validation because these are all
Mhm.
like-minded, like-experienced people. It brings
Right.
understanding and the development of healthy relationships. So you come in as a broken person with broken relationships, but the bond that is built in group therapy, that's teaching you how to trust,
Mhm.
how to understand someone else's perspective, how to show empathy and care and concern for someone else. It's just that's all part of CBT. It helps you to learn new building blocks to become a whole person again.
Right.
So
Love it. Definitely something I should invest some time into.
yeah, and just so you know, Gene, that I think men can just do that. You know, find a trusted brother. So you and I
Right.
can create our own
Right.
group therapy for trauma, you know, between
Right.
ourselves. And then we can add other men that, you know, might be in our circle that, you know, are of interest. So it doesn't have
Right.
to be done necessarily,
In
preferably in a
person.
professional setting. But
Right.
a great start is, you know, get 2, 3 brothers that you really trust, you know,
Right.
and can connect with, and you guys share with each other
Yeah.
intimately, openly, non-judgmentally.
Right. Agreed.
So
I came for a lighthearted moment, and I thought, you're going to enjoy this, Coach G. But I was thinking to myself, and I was sharing it with some friends of mine earlier. Sometimes that therapy can also be Mother Nature. Because when I was coming here to work earlier this morning, I was watching two birds, and I actually put it on one of my Facebook posts because they were having way too much fun courting, and it was actually fun watching them courting, and it was actually giving me some a little bit of therapy as well. Because I'm sitting there going like, I don't think that Miss Bird is liking Mr. Bird because she was definitely rubbing away and all along those lines. But it was definitely kind of humorous to watch them because as I was talking to a friend of mine and I've known Yvonne for a long time, sometimes watching other animals do what we humans do can be almost as comical because we can see that across species the problems are the same. So they probably even have their
Right. Pretty
version
much.
of trauma as well and everything.
right,
Definitely.
that's funny.
Definitely they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
Nature is definitely nature and vitamin D or sun time,
Yes,
hanging out with Mr. Sun is definitely a natural method to take yourself out of depression, things of that nature. That's one of the first things I suggest for people who are experiencing depression or depressive symptoms. Is it, go outside, spend some time in the sun. Get that natural vitamin D. Movement.
yeah.
Breathe. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that for later. I don't want to give away
Our
our
secret
tidbits for the
sauce.
right. Ooh, don't you tell nobody. Tell nobody.
No, we won't tell everybody. But yeah, I'm gonna
Right.
hit these last two because I really want you to jump into self-care practices because I know that's your space. So the next big point would be support networks. So support groups that I talked about, and support groups. Joining a support group specifically tailored to men's experiences of childhood trauma can offer supportive and understanding environments. These groups are built on a platform of sharing experiences, gaining insight between everybody, receiving validation from others who have like experiences and challenges. There's online support groups, there's local community organizations that can help be resources for finding support groups like Gene and I just talked about. I mean, he and I
Right.
could probably start a support group between he and I and just add people that come,
Right.
preferably in a professional setting because there's lessons that need to be taught that come out of that. But I learned in group therapy just talking, just sharing in a non-judgmental, safe place. Men don't have a lot of places that we consider safe places. When Evie was here, she talked about safe tears. There's not a lot of places we can go where there's safe tears. In my group, there was a lot of crying.
Yeah.
There was a lot of crying, and it was beautiful. Another one is men organizations and advocacy groups. There are numerous organizations and advocacy groups that focus on supporting men's mental health and addressing the impact of childhood trauma. These organizations often provide resources, educational materials, helplines, so like 800 numbers, and platforms for men to connect with professionals and other survivors. So it's important that you do those things and you take those steps. One can't what I'm trying to say, one can't prevent the fact that they have experienced trauma, but you are 100% in control on whether you continue to experience that trauma. At some point, you've got to say enough is enough and stop being the victim and take ownership of that and empower yourself to overcome that. And the first step is sometimes being in a group and just sharing your story. As hard as that may be, as painful as that might be, just sharing your story.
Yep. And changing that situation to a better version of yourself. The alchemy of releasing trauma, in order to make it something better for yourself. And actually, that goes right into the self-care practices.
You got those, man. That's your step.
All right. All right. Number one. Number one is mindfulness. All right. Mindfulness and meditation. Engaging in mindfulness practices and meditation can help men develop self-awareness, manage stress, and regulate emotions. These practices can assist in grounding oneself, reducing anxiety, and improving overall well-being. Yeah, so I absolutely suggest that everyone meditate. Like, meditation is taking time to, one, focus on your breath and allow the movie of your life to just go by like a vision, as opposed to becoming attached to it. It gives you the ability to separate yourself from the situation and watch and observe.
Okay.
And observation, and you also get to address the feelings that come up when you see that movie. That's another thing that meditation and mindfulness brings about. I feel this way when I had that vision. I can imagine when you went back when you did the EMDR and re-experienced the situation where you were molested at the age of 10, that there were a lot of feelings that came up. And the dope thing,
as you're saying this, so teach us.
Yeah.
Because some of men hear about meditation all the time. Or you do this and do the yoga and do the meditation, but tell us how do we do that? What does that look like?
All right, so for meditation is really actually quite simple. Some would say it's difficult, but you could be in a meditative space, walking like Mark said, maybe around a river or something, and you're consciously taking deep breaths that fill your lungs all the way up, and then exhale all of the carbon dioxide in your lungs. And actually, we have to understand that our cells hold trauma and they hold energy. And when you don't take deep breaths, then you actually create more of an environment for those things to stay deep into your cell memory. But when you take those deep breaths and you imagine yourself breathing into the trauma in the cells, and you release through consciously exhaling everything that no longer serves you.
Am I doing
so
it right?
So you want to start with your nose, actually. Let's do this. All right.
See, there we go. He gonna teach us, y'all. He gonna teach us. So
all right. So you want to sit up as tall as you can, spine straight. You're going to slightly tuck your chin down towards your chest, palms either downward facing on your thighs or on the seat of the chair beside you. So I'm going to take a deep breath into your nose, Fill your lungs all the way up. And on your exhale, exhale through the nose and close your eyes. Take another deep inhale. Fill your lungs all the way up. And then exhale all the way down, holding the breath for 2 seconds.
So I'm inhaling through my nose. Am I exhaling out through my mouth?
Exhale out through your nose. So inhale and exhale out of your nose.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
And exhale through the nose.
Can we do a couple
let's
more?
go again. Yeah, for sure. All right, so take that deep inhale through your nose, fill your lungs all the way up to the top. And then you hold there for 4, 3, 2, 1, and you exhale all the way down into your lungs to the bottom. And when you become completely empty, then you hold for 2 and 1. And again, fill yourself all the way up. And hold for 4, 3, 2, and 1. Exhale all the way down, pushing the air out. I want to add a visualization to this. So on your inhale, imagine yourself filling yourself up with positive, loving, warm energy. And then you hold at the top and breathe into each cell the loving, warm, positive energy. And then exhale all the way down to the bottom, exhaling anything that no longer serves you, anything that is not on the vibration that you want to exist upon. And hold there for 2 and 1. And then again, fill your lungs up like 2 bellows all the way up to the top of your head. Feel the breath coming at the top of your head as the white light energy builds around you. And then again, exhale. Exhaling anything that no longer serves your highest good. And then inhale all the way up. And let a deep sigh out through your mouth.
Well, that's
and
good,
then begin
bro.
to blink those eyes open. I will go longer, but
No, that's good, man. I like that.
we'd be here for a while. But
Yeah.
so, just after that, how do you feel? How do you feel after that?
I'm relaxed, man. I feel calm because really, I've been texting a couple people that this show today brings anxiety for me, and
Bro,
I
you
feel,
too? Okay.
and I just wanted to be the warrior to get it out, because that's what we're talking
Yeah.
about. We're gonna face it. We ripped the Band-Aid off today.
Right.
But I needed some healing too.
Yeah.
We need healing too. So thank you for walking me through and giving me. I was inhaling peace.
Yeah.
I was exhaling out that stress and that anxiety and that feel, and inhaling peace and happiness and joy and good energy and white light. So
Right. Beautiful. And for me, everything is more vivid, just through that breathing technique.
heighten my
Colors
senses.
around right, exactly. And so you have to think about the fact that when we're in stressful situations, we tend to shorten the breath.
Oh yeah, yes.
And it creates more anxiety. And again, like I said before, you tend to, slump over, which does not allow your lungs to expand the way they need to fill yourself all the way up with positive energy and positive ions, because oxygen is a positive ion. And then when you exhale out carbon dioxide, which is a negative ion.
Mm-hmm.
So you're
That's
constantly
good.
filling yourself up with positive energy upon inhale through your nose, and that filters. The nostrils and the nose hairs actually act as a filter. When you exhale out of your nose, right. And when you exhale, it's actually pushing out all of those things that were stuck in your nostrils and your nose hairs. It pushes out of your body. So all of those negative ions, it holds it. It's like, okay, now we're getting it out. But then it just creates more of that.
Like hyperventilating. That makes total sense.
Exactly. Right.
I had to come tease y'all. Y'all can't be having trauma on Unbreakable Souls. I mean, I was producer, and I'm not allowing trauma to be here in this space and everything. I try to keep everything nice and calm and nice and relaxed. So y'all don't need to be sitting here trying to have fits of panic in the middle of a show that's not good and everything.
We're showing them how to overcome their trauma. Everything's here is real, hands on.
Yep.
You get a hands-on experience here.
Right.
No doubt. But y'all do a great job, so y'all don't need to have trauma. Y'all are amazing counselors, amazing teachers, amazing individuals, and amazing true
Same to you.
pioneers and warriors. So y'all are truly warriors from within and everything. Actually, that's one of the
Thank
things
you.
that I regret, even though I know I did it, because sometimes you got to be, because we're in the middle of March Madness here, and my Golden Eagles, which is the Marquette team, just made it past the first round. Now we got to play Colorado and everything tomorrow afternoon, but I do remember because even Shaka talks about that warrior spirit with our team and everything. So even in basketball, they talk about that warrior spirit, and I did like the name, even though having some Native American part of my ancestry, I can understand where people might have been upset over the cultural aspect of it as well. But definitely, I enjoyed being a warrior when I was there in the 80s and everything. But I'm still good with us being Golden Eagles as well. But yeah, we talk about, even the team talks about that warrior mentality. So Coach G, you can relate to that. Shaka Smart talks about being a warrior when he's
I
getting
love
his
him.
team locked in and everything. So he talks
One of
about
my
that
favorite
warrior
coaches.
mentality.
One of my favorite coaches. And then I just peaked. I'm down 20.
Ooh.
KU guy, I'm down 20. Gonzaga's killing us right now. We were up 1 at halftime.
Yeah, y'all
Yeah,
were winning
Gonzaga is
at
a
the
beast.
halftime.
Huh?
Gonzaga's one of them teams that will sneak up on you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well coached.
No, yeah.
Yeah, very
And
well.
actually, to catch
Cool. I'm
on,
gonna let y'all
to
get on.
touch
I
on
just had to
that,
tease y'all because when I heard y'all saying that y'all were stressed, I'm going like, wait a minute. I'm the leader of this bunch in terms of the producers. They can't be stressed with me. That's not allowed.
Oh no, we're good. We're good.
yeah,
Yeah, well, hit those last 2 points, man.
yeah, for sure. I did want to say real quick that the warrior mentality, we actually, because of the society we grow up in, we've been taught that warrior mentality is just strength,
Right. Right.
physical external strength. But actually, if you do the work of a spiritual warrior, you are strong and you are vulnerable. That's the spiritual warrior. That's that wholeness. That's a holistic approach to life. Being soft, but also being firm and knowing when to be which. So
Balance.
that
I like
means you
that.
have to have self awareness. You have
Yeah,
to have
that's
self
good.
awareness in situations. Do I need to be strong and stalwart here, or 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 vulnerability? Which one? Which one is the situation need from me?
Yeah, what does it
You know,
require in the
right?
moment?
Exactly.
That's good,
Right.
brother.
And that's what we call self awareness. Being aware in the moment. You're living now as opposed to living in the past that no longer exists or a
Mm-hmm.
future that you know may never exist. We are
Right.
in the now, and that's really all that exists. So
Right.
if we stay focused in the moment and focus on our breathing and being self-aware, then we will always have a better, sharper version of ourselves aware, and that's the spiritual warrior.
Right. That's good, brother.
Thank you,
I had to
sir. So number,
relearn to be the warrior.
yeah, yep,
Go
I
ahead.
did too. I did too. I did too. Cause yeah, I was on everything. It's like no, everything don't deserve that energy. So,
Right.
all right. Another way that I love to challenge my frustration and trauma is by engaging in physical activity and exercise daily. Engaging in regular physical activity and exercise can have positive effects on mental health, i.e., the body produces feel good endorphins that help the body relax. That oxytocin, that's a dude right there. You
Yeah.
get that movement, and all of a sudden, everything is you can process everything in a calmer manner. But when you sit there, you're not only do you ever pay attention to when you're frustrated and you don't get up and move or something, then you feel stiff and exhausted.
Yeah. Movement is
Because you
essential.
stood there, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. You stood there in this space, and now after having all your muscles flexed and your nostrils flared, and you know, and your blood boiling, now you exhausted. I need a nap.
And you
But if you
rest
would have moved,
negative emotions.
yeah, right, exactly, and can't rest. Yeah, and I mean it's a whole cycle, it's a whole vicious cycle. But when you move the energy and you consciously move, like I love yoga because not only do you get the awareness through the breathing, the stretching through the stretching, but you also strengthen your muscles as
Mm-hmm.
well. Yoga's no joke. I mean, yoga's the first thing that ever had me in a puddle of sweat in 5 minutes. Yes, yes.
I'm gonna have to
Like when
try
I
some yoga.
started, yeah, I'm telling you, brother.
And my brother, I believe you do online yoga that people need to be
Oh
signing up for.
yeah. So okay, thank you for that plug. So I have been loading more fitness classes on Premier Fitness 0210 on YouTube. I actually will upload another one tonight. So I
Yeah.
have fitness classes, as in like I put up a fitness boot camp yesterday. I have yoga classes, yoga Pilates classes, and meditations on there as well. So check me out. Premier Fitness 0210 at youtube.com. Thank you for that shameless plug, brother.
Oh yeah, no problem, man. But I also want to say you have which I got to actually start it. You have the yoga for the office or exercise for
Yeah,
the office.
absolutely. So it's chair yoga, and it's actually
Chair
something
yoga.
that you can do. Yeah, actually something that you can do in your space at work. Maybe if you have a break and you really can't get away from your desk, I show you a way of moving your body in a way that will help you feel um, focused, aware, and balanced and open at your desk, and you go right back to work. I mean, 30 minutes. You know,
Right.
that's half a lunch break. After that, you eat your food, healthy food. Let's specify healthy food. But yeah. So again, check that out on Premier Fitness 0210. I have a whole 30-minute chair yoga class that I actually teach you working professionals and the elderly.
Okay. You
Hey,
might have to
it
send that
works.
to
They
me
both.
again
I got
because I'm
brother,
gonna try. And
brother.
I need the accountability, so I need you to be on me about starting on Monday when I go to work. So
All right, so I'm gonna send you two videos.
okay,
Send you
yes,
the
sir.
chair yoga again, and I'm gonna send you the fitness boot camp that I want you to do at home.
Yes, so.
So yeah, that's important because again, when you are sitting still with any type of stress on you, you become inflexible. But when you
Right.
move your body, you actually move the energy and you create. So it's alchemy. You take a lower form of something. You're sitting there stressed. You move your body and you exercise and you breathe consciously. Then you raise your vibration and your energy to a higher level. That's alchemy. We do it every day in all that we do. Even breathing itself is alchemy. You breathe in oxygen, you exhale carbon dioxide, which means your body separated the carbon dioxide from the oxygen that you're breathing and pushes it out, changes it to something higher. So yeah, alchemy in everything we do. Yeah,
Yeah.
what you laughing at, mama? What you laughing at now?
That's good
All right,
stuff.
yeah, and that last but not least is we are at 75 minutes almost. All right,
Oh,
so yeah, I know. All right, so last but not least, creative outlets. Exploring creative outlets such as writing, painting, music, or dancing can provide a means of self
yeah.
expression and emotional release. There you go. Shake it, baby. Shake
Get that
it.
two step on. Get that two step on.
Right foot, two stops. Anyway. Oh man, engaging in artistic activities can be therapeutic and allow individuals to process their emotions in a safe and creative way. Remember, seeking professional help from therapists or counselors who specialize in trauma is crucial for personalized guidance and
Yes.
support in the healing journey.
Thank you for saying that. Yes.
Oh yeah,
That's good. Man, what a show.
oh yeah,
What a show. But I'm leaving. Hopefully the men are leaving in a better space. And I
right,
feel uplifted. I feel free,
right,
empowered that I've taken control over those situations in my life.
right. And as
So
and as we teach y'all, these things, we learn as well. It just re-sparked things in my head that I needed to do for myself to help myself process just the trauma of life. Life
mhm.
itself is traumatic,
Yes,
you
it
know,
is.
and to be self-aware and having all the tools to help you process the trauma of life, that's just natural. Not only experiencing loss of relationships and friends and people passing away and jobs being lost and found, and that's whew, Lord,
That's
that's trauma, man.
yeah. Well, I mean, just being a black man in America with, target on your back every day is trauma, and then the weight of that, and our ancestral trauma that is embedded in our DNA. It's just there's so much. So if you're not intentionally and being active to do something to combat that, you're going to get buried and continue to get buried. And that's why we're doing the show, Men, Unbreakable Souls. It's men healing through strength. And we're actually breaking the paradigm on strength, as my brother so eloquently taught on warrior. So be the new age warrior.
Right.
Break that old mold and be like the bamboo tree that is flexible and bends, but does not break.
That's how the spiritual warrior works.
Yeah.
That's how it works right there. Because life is gonna get windy. Life is gonna get tough. But not only be strong, but also allow yourself the space to be aware of how you really feel and express it in a constructive, genuine, authentic way that will leave you in a better space. We've been taught to just push it down, but you only create more. It's like burying a seed. The more dirt you put on the seed, or the more seed you put into the ground, the bigger, the plant is. And we want to go down to the seed, the roots of whatever we're feeling, and address them directly so that they can't hold us down.
Right. Yeah, that's good. So I appreciate you, bro.
Bro, I appreciate you.
Your wisdom.
Mark,
I appreciate your vulnerability today. Your courage and bravery to step out and launch into the deep and share some hard things. So,
yeah, and I wanted to say to you, I'm glad that you said what you said about this show is like can be trauma inducing in the sense that like, I don't want to open up. I don't know. I just talked to my girlfriend about that. She was like, "Dude, I know you're nervous about it." I don't want to talk about childhood trauma. And it's like, I needed this. This was necessary.
Yeah, you got this, and you led by example.
Yeah. So again, thank you for expressing that and allowing yourself to be vulnerable in this space, so that we're like you said, we're walking by example. We're setting the example by living it, not just by talking it. Anybody can do that.
This is walk service, not lip service.
Yes, sir. There we go. Yes, sir. Tie up your shoes real tight, because we walk in this life. Bars.
Well, yeah, Mark's popping in. So this is your boy, Coach G. I know I'm out. Bless you.
Now we all get ready to get out of here. I was going to say one of my favorite songs. It was a blues song. Y'all are doing something that the song was actually against, but it was an old blues song, and you may have heard it, but it used to be called Lip Service and Lies. It was actually talking about how a lot of times politicians and even in relationships, they'll give you lip service and lies, but we're giving you real service and not lies. So that's what I'm saying. This is not
real
lip service.
I like that.
Yeah, real service and no lies. All nothing but the truth. So we're going to go out with definitely Gene's video and get on out of here. But yeah, like I said, if you have not familiar with the song Lip Service and Lies, check it out, because it is definitely a hilarious song, but it definitely talks about how even in relationships, and I know we can really get into relationships later on, we can get into those lip service and lies, where it's a lot of lip service and not any truth to the statements.
Yeah, relationships next week. Woo!
Yep.
Man.
Cool.
About to get
we'll get into that next week. Cool. So I'm going to pull everybody off, myself included, and we're going to go out of here with Gene's video and everything. So looking forward to it. It ought to be a great one. And this has been a great show. Y'all did another great job.
Thanks, sir.
The police took another life. Gunshots rang out, even though he had his hands held high. Yo, I'm sick and tired of walk my brother's short lines. Need We to come together, set a plan, and then mobilize. Oh, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do about all the hell that we're going through? Now stand up, shout out into the walls of Babel on the feet. Stand up, come on y'all, and let's make some history. Stand up, rise up and know you ain't gotta follow, you can lead. Stand up y'all, we can do this, you and me. Monsanto monopolized the whole grocery line. So we all gon' have 12 toes, 3 thumbs, 3 eyes. If we keep in sheep, these wolves are gon' rob us blind. Let's occupy our mind space, cause the revolution won't be televised. Oh, what are we gon' do? What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do about all the hell that we're going through? Now stand up, shout out into the walls of Babel on the feet. Stand up, y'all, we can do this, you and me. Stand up, rise up and know you ain't gotta follow, you can lead. Stand up, y'all, we can do this, you and me. Oh, have mercy, mercy me. The government should nurture and when will all these wars be done? Hopefully before the government gonna have the money. Yeah. Before another mother has a one person. Shout out into the walls of Babel on the feet. Stand up, come on y'all, and let's make some history. Stand up, rise up, you know you ain't gotta follow, you can lead. Stand up y'all, we can do this, you and me. Stand up, shout out into the walls of Babel on the feet. Stand up, come on y'all, and let's make some history. Stand up, rise up, you know you ain't gotta follow.